cravings versus true hunger and how to tell the difference between these. So true hunger, okay? If you sit with yourself before you have a meal or you have a snack, before you sit down to eat, you check in with your body to see actually how hungry you are or why you're actually eating. What is the reason behind you putting that food into your belly? A lot of people think that intuitive eating is just eating anything whenever you want, wherever you want. There's no structure, there's no awareness, and there's no considerations for nutrients. True intuitive eating is listening to your body and fueling it for strength, energy, and recovery. If you're watching this on YouTube, I'm wearing a sweater that I actually got engaged in, and I'm really sad about it. And the reason is because I would have never worn this sweater if I knew I was getting engaged. Like, it's so big. It makes me look like a trash bag. I was like, Teddy, what were you thinking? Why would you allow me to walk out of the house like that? But it wasn't even actually in the house. It was in the doorway, leaving the house, going to my brother's house for Christmas. When I specifically asked him, like, please, if there's one thing you're not going to do not propose to me on Christmas. And then he did. Happily married, 3 years, been together for 10. That's not what this podcast is about. This podcast is all about intuitive eating, what it actually means, and why it is not just eating whatever you want. Now, a lot of people in my DMs will be like, what should my calories be? What are you eating for your macros? I do not do any of that. I don't count calories and I don't count macros. And some people are like, well, Tara, how do I know what to eat if I don't have my calories in check? Well, this is where an intuitive eating journal or doing some sort of food tracking before you get into intuitive eating would be really beneficial for you. So do I track macros? That is it. No. However, I do know kind of what I am consuming on a day-to-day basis when it comes to protein. I weigh around 150 pounds, so I eat around 150 grams of protein. How do I know how much protein I'm eating? Well, I know I can eyeball now how much chicken I'm eating. That's around 4 ounces of chicken. I know is around 30 to 35 grams of protein. I know what I put in my overnight oats that I've been eating every single day for the past 5 years is around 35 grams of protein because I've got Greek yogurt, I've got protein powder, I have Fairlife, all in there, which includes, a big source of protein. I also know how much by kind of eyeballing a piece of salmon, how much salmon I'm eating. So these are all things that I kind of know already just by looking. However, you can use a food scale or something just to understand how much protein is in something. I do feel like that is beneficial for you. Do I have a meal plan? No. Do I work with clients and give them meal plans? No. Why? Because they're super restrictive and they're not something that you're going to follow along with. Like, imagine if I just gave you every single thing that you should eat every day for the entire week. Boring. Also, you're going to ultimately want a cheat meal. And cheat meals are so 2001. We don't use that term anymore. We are eating healthy, balanced, sustainably Monday through Sunday. I remember growing up, my parents always, they had a Sunday cheat day and they would eat so much. And we had so much pasta every Sunday night, which don't get me wrong, I miss the pasta, but like, why are you going to overconsume? Because then every time you overconsume, you overindulge and then you feel worse about yourself on Monday. And then you're like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. So intuitive eating allows you to eat some of these things throughout the week. So you're not restricting yourself and you're not throwing it all away on Sunday. You're just eating what you want during the week. Now, a lot of people think that intuitive eating is just eating anything whenever you want, wherever you want. There's no structure, there's no awareness, and there's no considerations for nutrients. But true intuitive eating, which is a term coined by Evelyn Tribole and one other woman, intuitive eating, yes. They have a book. It's called The Intuitive Eating Principles. However, I kind of take those and intersperse them throughout my life. And I don't go by the book. I'm not someone also, if you've listened to anything that I've ever put out there, I am not black or white. I live in the gray. And even with intuitive eating, there is balance. Some people would say if you track your protein, you're not intuitive eating. I don't care. That's what I do. And it works really, really well for me. And it works so well for my clients. And it's really valuable to know how much protein you're eating, especially if you are strength training and want to see the goals. Back to the story. True intuitive eating is listening to your body and fueling it for strength, energy, and recovery. So let's go over what this episode is going to cover, what intuitive eating is and how it's often misinterpreted, which we've kind of already gone over, why cravings aren't always something you should give into, especially when hormones are involved, and then why I track protein and why this makes a huge difference, but then also how to apply intuitive eating while training and building muscle. Okay, so let's go back to what we see on social media, intuitive eating, or maybe actually intuitive eating got this, it was very big, probably like 5 to 6 years ago. A good friend of mine actually had a business around intuitive eating, and it was really big. And now I actually haven't seen it that much anymore. But now I feel like I just use it as a way to eat a balanced, healthy lifestyle while still enjoying the things that you love. So the social media version of intuitive eating is, quote, just listen to your body, but no one really teach you how to listen to your body. They also say something like eat whatever you crave, which often leads to this mindless eating that doesn't support you, your energy, or any of your recovery. And then people will say like, there's no food rules, like there's nothing that you can't do, just eat whatever you want. And then really it's while food freedom is great, completely ignoring the structure can make it harder to feel good and just perform well overall. And so what is it actually? What actually is intuitive eating? It is those principles, those 10 principles, but it's also about building a relationship with food based on awareness, not restriction. That is our whole goal, is that we're not restricting ourselves from what we want to eat or what we know is going to fuel ourselves. We're also understanding how food impacts your energy, strength, and just overall well-being. We're also eating in a way that feels good long-term and not just in the moment, although that is a part of intuitive eating as well. And then knowing that intuitive eating and mindful eating actually go hand in hand. Intuitive, mindful. You'll hear the word mindful kind of thrown in this episode as well. I even use that with movement. I do mindful movements. If you know you go into a strength session and you're like, I am not feeling this today. I'm not feeling the RPE 9. How can I scale back? Let's take it back to RPE 6 or 7. We're being mindful with the way we move. So why does this actually matter to fitness? Now, if you are lifting or training or just prioritizing your movement at all, your body has specific nutritional needs. So it's really important to listen to those. And again, intuitive eating does not mean that we're ignoring what our body needs. It just means learning to recognize these needs and honoring them without so much of as a rigid diet. And this is especially important for women as we go through hormonal fluctuations throughout the month, which can directly impact your appetite, your energy, and your cravings. So really the key takeaway of intuitive eating from this perspective of like what it is and what it is not, it is not just eating whatever sounds good. It's about eating whatever feels good. Eating whatever feels good. So when I think about intuitive eating, or when I say like I eat whatever I want, I truly do eat whatever I want. It just so happens that so much of what I want is really good for me and makes me feel good and gives me energy. And I found what works really best for me. So that is what I want you to think about when it comes to intuitive eating and eating whatever you want. I do eat whatever I want, but it just so happens that I choose to eat overnight oats every day, or I choose to eat a chicken salad or a chicken sandwich for lunch, or I choose to eat a salmon and broccoli for dinner. But then I always going to choose to have a treat when I go to a coffee shop. I'm always going to choose to have dessert every month or every night, every month. Listen, it's every night. Also, Yasso bars. Do you want to sponsor this podcast? Because I eat you every night. So when we talk about giving into cravings versus listening to your body, I think listening to your body kind of gets thrown around a little bit as well. But cravings versus true hunger and how to tell the difference between these. So true hunger, okay? If you sit with yourself before you have a meal or you have a snack, what are these physical cues? This is maybe your stomach is growling. Maybe you're feeling lightheaded. Maybe you're fatigued. You're feeling a little weak. You might get this irritability or what you may often know as hangry. Also just gradually increasing feeling hungry over time. So true hunger, those are the physical cues that you'll feel. I also offer a mindful intuitive eating PDF that you can kind of go through. Before you sit down to eat, you check in with your body to see actually how hungry you are or why you're actually eating. What is the reason behind you putting that food into your belly? Then when we look at cravings, this is more emotional or mental triggers. And this is typically, it's sudden, it's urgent desire for a specific food. especially like sugary or salty snacks, definitely triggered by stress, boredom, or emotions. Just the other day, I went and opened the fridge and I was like, I'm just bored and I want something to put in my mouth. That's not what she said. So eating, but still also not feeling satisfied, this can also be a craving as well. Sometimes I'll feel like this after I eat lunch and I'll be like, well, I just had the protein, like I feel full, but like, why do I still want more? And that is when some sort of like little treat or little something afterwards, like I've been getting these fruit roll things. I think it's just called Hey Fruit. It's at the Costco and it's just a fruit bar. It's like the fruit leather thing, but it just has the fruit in it. It has nothing else. So that kind of kicks into my like, oh, I had that little craving and then I'm like good for the rest of the day. Okay, so how hormones actually impact your craving. So women, we're so lucky. We get these beautiful things called menstrual cycles every single month, if you are lucky enough to have one. And a lot of us struggle with hormone-driven cravings, especially during certain phases of their menstrual cycle. So typically what happens is when you have low progesterone and high cortisol, which is stress, you have sugar cravings. Then if you have low estrogen right before your period, you have increased appetite and cravings for carbs because you need that energy for your actual cycle. Also, lack of sleep and high stress. As you'll see, stress is in all of these because the higher your stress is, the more you'll want and lean into some of these cravings. So the higher stress increases ghrelin, which is the hunger hormone, and decreases your leptin, which is your satiety hormone, making you crave food more, especially processed carbs. That's kind of just like what we crave the most. And then cravings aren't always a bad thing, but they aren't always something to give into either. So checking in with yourself is great. And here's how to we'll do a little check-in of like, what can we do to check in before we just like mindlessly give in to that boredom that I was talking about earlier. So first and foremost, let's pause and ask yourself this, like, am I hungry? Or am I just feeling stressed, bored, tired? Boom. It's like, like the poster board that's like, are you this or this? And it's like, yes or no. It's like, what are you choosing? And then that'll take you down the flow of things. Will this food make me feel good in an hour? Or am I going to crash? Really great example of this, honestly, for me is like if I have a big meal in the middle of the day. So pizza or like chicken wings or pasta or something like that, where it's like right in the middle of the day, I know I'm going to crash at like 2 or 3 p.m. because it was so heavy and it just kind of like sits for me. Number 2, after our check-in, we want to look at how we're balancing our meals to prevent cravings in the first place. Now, we need to make sure that we're eating enough protein, which I'll get into, fiber, and healthy fats to stabilize blood sugar and reduce cravings. So when you look at your plate, does it have those things in it? Because again, protein is always going to satisfy you longer for a longer period of time. Same with fiber. And then if you want something, eat it, but eat it mindfully. This is so important to note, especially if you are someone like me that have had some binge eating issues in the past. I am going to still have the thing if I want it, but I am going to take a little piece of it so that I know and like sit with it afterwards. So I know that that satisfied my craving. So instead of saying, I can't have this, try something like, I can have this, but is this what my body needs right now? Or can I have this in a small dosage? Like instead of having a whole thing of cookies, you have 1 or 2 cookies, and then you sit afterwards and you're like, did that satisfy myself? Do I feel good? And then the key takeaway here with cravings is that they are totally normal. So please do not get mad at yourself, feel guilty, or feel shameful for having cravings. They are totally and completely normal. But if you're always giving in without awareness, this can actually lead to feeling worse, which, like I was saying earlier, with the cheat day or like having a whole day of indulgent is probably going to make you feel worse. And then learning to navigate those cravings without guilt or restriction is key. And this does take time to change that mindset and to make this happen long term. But know that you can absolutely get there. Now, back to the protein, because that is literally the only thing that I track. And at this point, I don't actually write anything down. I kind of just know, just based on how I feel in my workouts, based on how I feel satisfied throughout the day. and based on my recovery time, based on my sleep. Honestly, so much of it is based on how I feel. But also, to be totally frank with you, during the week, I mean, even really on the weekends too, I eat very, very similarly. So I know exactly how much I'm getting in on a daily basis. It could be anywhere between 130 and 155 grams or so, maybe 160, depending on the day. And I kind of just like stick with that. And protein is non negotiable because it is the building block of muscle recovery and strength. And this is why it's always going to be the top of my list of something that I track and something that I have all of my clients look at how much they're eating. It helps keep you full. It helps keep you satisfied so you don't feel like you have to snack constantly. And it supports that healthy metabolism with your body composition goals if you have any. For me, it's very much maintenance. I know how much I'm getting, so I just try and hit those every week. And so at this point, like I said, I don't really track anything, and I don't feel like I need to. But a lot of my clients may do it for may do a little bit of tracking to see kind of where they're at, stay there for a moment, and then pull out of it and maybe go back and forth based on, new environment, lifestyle, stressors, work, whatever. Maybe their plans have changed. So you can actually check back in with that. Roughly though, 0.7, 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per body weight in pounds. And then I make sure each meal has a protein source. Like this is a huge, this is something that is so necessary. So many clients I talk to have a very basic breakfast and there's really no protein in it. So it doesn't keep them that full that long. So, okay, if we look at meals, and if you're not like a big meal girly, you can do like just bigger snacks. Maybe you do like a 4 bigger snacks a day rather than like meals. But if we look at the meals, breakfast, you can have eggs, Greek yogurt, protein smoothie, protein shake, something like that. Lunch, chicken, salmon, tofu, beans, lentils. There's always ways to add more protein as well, like nutritional yeast and nuts and seeds that can give you like those little bursts of more protein. For dinner, beef, shrimp, tempeh, more chicken, poultry. Like there's so many things you can do as far as the meat side goes. For my people that like fish, salmon is a really, really great source of protein. Also, omega-3s are really fatty fish is really good for you as well. And then snacks like cottage cheese, protein bars, nuts, seeds, any type of dairy, cheese. I can eat everything. So I always suggest you try different things, but obviously work with what's best for you in your life. I have a lot of friends that are dairy free and could never eat the way I do. So the key takeaway about protein is that you do not have to track everything, but keeping an eye on just that one macro ensures that you are fueling your body properly and correctly. So what does this look like IRL in real life for all my elder millennials? No, you know what IRL is. Actually, I think that Gen Z probably doesn't know what IRL is anymore because they're like, that's skibbity doo. Am I an elder millennial? I don't know. 89? You guys tell me. So I'm just going to give you an example of how I eat so you know that intuitive eating can be thrown into my lifestyle, but also maybe some of yours. And maybe you can take little bits and pieces of this to make it your own. So for breakfast, I really, truly eat the same thing every day. I have overnight oats basically Monday through Wednesday. And if I want to make another batch for the weekend, I will, like for Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Or I'll have like a Greek yogurt with protein powder, or I'll have some yogurt, or I'll have some oatmeal. But if I wake up starving, I opt for like a bigger breakfast typically. Maybe it's eggs, toast, avocado, bacon, sausage, something like that. But if I'm not super hungry, I go for something lighter like a protein smoothie. For myself personally, I always want food right in the morning. Like I will eat 30 minutes after I wake up. That's just what works best for me. But again, always figure out what works best for you and try out different things. Don't just do it once too. Try it out for a week or two and then be like, oh, this worked or this didn't work. And this is why. For lunch, if I have low energy, I like to add more carbs like rice or sweet potatoes or some sort of grain, maybe like a pita or something like that. And then if I'm feeling bloated at lunch, I'll have maybe some easier to digest type of foods. Dinner, if I trained hard that day, I want to make sure that I get enough protein and healthy fats. And then maybe if I've had a lower activity day, like I am recording this on a Thursday, which is usually my rest day, I focus on more veggies and lighter protein options. Also within your period, like the course of the month, you may notice that you are hungrier than others, and that's really cool to track, honestly. It's really cool to see how much your body changes over the course of the month. I've been doing this a lot more recently, and I'm like telling all my clients to, because it's so cool to know that data, so that, moving forward month over month, you can be like, oh, well, actually, at this time of the month, I was eating more, and that's cool because your body and weight will fluctuate throughout the month. Handling sweet cravings, yeah, so bar. If you want to sponsor me, I will take that sponsorship. I love Greek yogurt ice cream bars. They're great, but I also love real ice cream. So any real ice cream company, if you want to sponsor me. But honestly, I do. I really truly have something sweet at night. I'm a chocolate or ice cream type of girl. So I'll have that, or I'll have uh there's a bar called Huts, I think it's called. I could be butchering the name, but it's like this incredible dark chocolate with peanut butter or caramel in it. And I'll have like half of that bar if I want something chocolate, and I'll have uh, you know, a little piece of it instead of the whole thing. If I crave something sweet at night and it's more than what I normally crave, like the ice cream, I'll check in with myself and I'll be like, did I have a balanced enough meals today? Or maybe I underfueled, or maybe I didn't have enough protein. So if at the end of the day, you're like ravenous and want to eat everything for dinner, and then you're still hungry, that probably means that you weren't super balanced throughout the day. And this is a really great way to check in with yourself and say, was I mindful and intuitive with what I was eating? So, key takeaway here with intuitive eating, it's about listening, adjusting, and making food choices that support both how you feel and your fitness goals, right? It's not just about eating whatever you crave. It can be about eating whatever you want, but not just eating whatever you crave. Although I am craving a donut right now, so I might call the donut shop to have one delivered. I'll report back and let you know. But truly, it's about listening to your body and fueling it properly. Listen to your body and fuel it properly. Cravings are totally normal, but learning to navigate them, especially when hormones are involved, can help you feel a lot more in control. And protein is key. It is the one thing that I do track and I am so consistent with to ensure that I'm fueling my body for strength and for energy. And really, honestly, think of intuitive eating as putting the reps in the gym. It's going to be putting the reps in over and over and over again until you recognize what truly makes you feel good. Because I didn't go from binge eating to intuitive eating. Like, it took a lot of time and effort and knowledge about food, but also protecting my space and changing my environment and who I surrounded myself with and how I felt about myself. There was so much that is involved in this. And actually, one of my first episodes ever is about how I kind of transitioned my journey from this ex-athlete to binge eater to now business owner and entrepreneur and intuitive eater. So you can do it. You can. And intuitive eating is just such an incredible thing that you can have into your life that makes every piece of navigating your social life and how you feel easier. So if this episode resonated with you, if anything that I'm talking about with food right now resonates with you in any way, please leave me a review or a rating. It helps this podcast grow. And I love this podcast and I love every single one of you that listen. And if you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much for being here. I don't get very many views on YouTube. So please, if you are, give me a blue sweater in the comments. But please also send this to a friend that may also resonate with it, or who's struggling with food balance and fitness, or wants to hear more about intuitive eating and how it can be intertwined in their life. And please subscribe for more real talk on fitness mindset and taking up space in the gym and feeling good in your body, because that is truly what I want every woman in this world to feel, is the ability to take up space, stand true to themselves, and feel confident and empowered in their own body. And that foundation is strength training, but also mindful and intuitive eating. Thank you so much. I love ya.